Please watch this video to the end before you judge. Before I start, this video is purely based upon my personal experiences as a British Indian. It is not aimed to offend or point fingers at anyone in particular, but rather to shed light upon an issue that is often brushed under the carpet because it's too sensitive. This video is directed at certain individuals and does not represent every single person in this country or on this earth. It was difficult for me to make this video, and I was warned by caring loved ones and well-wishers. People of our backgrounds have to watch every word we say, or our jobs get threatened, our voices, our platforms, our privileges taken away. We've been told over and over to just ignore the haters and the subtle manifestation of racism, even if it does have generational effects on our thoughts, feelings, personality development, actions, etc., etc. Just focus on your work. Prove your worth through your work. Be better than their best to garner a position in a job, in media, in society. Unfortunately, that position of power for us, even if well-deserved and earned, is always under threat and speculation. There are invisible eyes scrutinizing our every movement, our every statement, our every spoken word and action, to use it to tear us back down. And this is exactly why many of us don't speak, especially those that do finally make it in fields like politics, economics, mainstream media, medicine, etc., etc. But the recent events across the world and my personal life have been too triggering for me to keep this in anymore. I want to talk about subtle racism, not because it anywhere near compares to the gross, explicit acts of racial violence and crime, but because we have been told for generations to ignore it. Because raising our voice will achieve nothing, will bring us down and do nothing to our perpetrators. But I believe truly that to truly eradicate racism, we need to uproot the tree from its roots, tackle it at the micro to have an effect on the macro. We must speak up, or at least just speak about it. More so because the perpetrators have evolved. They have learned to not use certain words, certain terminology, but still get their message across. Remember, spoken words only makes up 7% of communication. Subtle racism is the immediate unwelcome you feel when you walk into a room. You just feel it in your core. And no words need to have been spoken. Through body language alone, you have been ostracized. It's the conversations you're left out of, the sly giggles in groups, and the common secret that you're not in on. The way you walk into school canteens and immediately notice that there's a code of who can sit where. And it's commonly easier to just sit with a coloured stranger than, you know what I mean. It's the way our names get mispronounced without an apology, or even an attempt to correctly say it. It's as if it's our fault that our names are spelt that way, and we have to apologize for this and be okay with any disrespectful, deformed version of our names, or worse still, shorten it to an English alternative to fit in. Subtle racism is the fact that ethnic minority groups have to carefully plan the neighborhood we buy a house in, or the city or place we get a job in. Ethnic minorities stick together. Because for some reason, when we move in somewhere, they all move out. When we appear in certain areas of the city, there are looks, whispers, and sometimes outright verbal abuse. Subtle segregation of the 21st century. It's no longer a law, but still a phenomenon. It's the fact that some of us will never tell our daughters and sons to go into certain industries of work because we know that we won't be welcome there. This is exactly what happened before I entered Miss England. I was told, you won't win. The Asian girls never win. And when I did win, let's just say there weren't many claps in the audience. The comments under the British media articles about my win had way more people questioning, she's not English, why is she Miss England? As Miss England, I had more positive comments from people outside of England, even though I represent the NHS, a national pride that is run by people of many colours and creeds. The sad part is that when people of colour gain positions of power, we feel obliged, because I guess it still doesn't happen enough. The pressure we then put on ourselves to not let anybody down. Forget about our bosses. You know, the mentality of kissing. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that word. It's the fact that consultants who wear bindis or have accents often get the once over by patients and asked to repeat words and phrases just because they're not quite the correct English pronunciation. Subtle racism is so infiltrated in our system, it's there even within us, the ethnic minorities. We enable it. Subtle racism is manifest worldwide in the fashion, media and entertainment industries as westernized beauty ideals, and thus it is deep-seated in our collective mindsets. Racism is a social hierarchy. Those that are more adapted, light-skinned, westernized, in fashion, appearance, the way they talk, their accents, social behaviors are more accepted than those that choose cultural clothing or have an accent or can't speak the language at all. And the sad part is that these people higher up in the food chain, within the same race, join in with the perpetrators. This gives them a false sense of power and superiority, but ultimately, we are all in the same box. The sad part is that we, the ones in the box, have less unity amongst us than those that put us in the box. We are willing to trample our own to get included with the perpetrators. Subtle racism is the fact that we feel we need to shut up so as not to offend our very own perpetrators, because they would feel too uncomfortable with this conversation. When I was young, there was maybe a handful of times that I experienced explicit racism. Every other time it was subtle. I started at a predominantly Caucasian school where I was clearly unwelcome, enabled, unfortunately, by other South Asians who joined in with the bullying. I got bullied here, and then I changed schools and went to another school which had more ethnic minorities, and I got bullied there too. You know, I was a bit different, a bit weird. I got bullied everywhere I went, but there was a difference. And I could tell, even at the age of 9, I could tell there was something deeper than just bullying. Subtle racism is often just a gut feeling. What changed this is an award that I was given in year 4 by a teacher. This shows the powerful role of authority figures. This brings me to the solution to subtle racism and every manifestation of it. We need more representation in authority roles, in people who we are supposed to be able to confide in. How can we explain to the police, to our management at our workplaces, to teachers who don't understand because they can't empathize, because they've never been through it? How can you explain a gut feeling? How can you explain non-verbal communication through physical words? It's the same as expecting a woman to feel comfortable explaining sexual harassment to a man, especially if it isn't explicit and straightforward groping. Number 2, we need Caucasians to fight alongside us. Not literally, but figuratively. It is unfortunately a bitter universal truth that white is still considered more right. Your voices are heard louder than us. A white teacher overrode my bullies to take my confidence from here to here by giving me that award in year 4. It changed the whole course of my life. I was a newly emigrated child at that time. It wasn't even 6 months into me being in this country. And suddenly I didn't care about all the other bullies because an authority figure had given me this recognition. A panel of Caucasian judges at Miss England chose an Indian immigrant Miss England and opened doors for me and so many other Asian girls. It makes me so proud to see that the best candidates this year are from ethnic minority backgrounds. And I can still say that there are so many Caucasians in the Miss England team, including Angie Beasley Yu, who make it worth it and make me have the strength to ignore all the racist comments under all my media articles and my social media, of course. I can name many such heroes throughout history who have indeed helped us slowly defeat racism. So, please join in. Give us fair opportunities and a fair fight and fair recognition. Number 3, we as minorities need to stop skin color and community-based, religion-based discrimination and stand together. If you're witnessing a form of racism towards an individual who is lower in the racial hierarchy, don't feel good and join in with the perpetrators. Stand with your own kind. More importantly, stand against wrong. Don't bring in personal vendettas, because one of the best ways to facilitate any kind of hate crime, or crime as it is the lack of unity. Don't tolerate racism just because they're not the same race as you or religion even. I have physically heard people say that the Black Lives Matter movement is a fight only for Black African Americans. No, Black Lives Matter is about defeating racism in society as a whole. No one, Black, Indian, Pakistani, or white, should tolerate the existence of race-based discrimination in the 21st century. Number 4, don't be afraid to speak up. Don't live in fear. So long as we will fear losing this battle and believing nothing will come out of protesting, speaking up, so long as we believe our voices are too small to bring real change and accept even the smallest of racism, we will never be able to end this. Remember, it was speaking up that brought women their right to vote and so many other changes throughout history. And even if our individual voices are too small to be heard, collectively, we can make a massive roar. And that's exactly what's happening right now. So every single voice counts. Finally, speaking up doesn't have to be done in unlawful ways. The law is there to help us. And where it is not, we must work to change the law, to bring reforms in the law, rather than go against it. Fighting against the system in violent, aggressive ways only distances us further and further from true justice. I'm sorry I had to read that all out. Clearly I had a lot to say, and I didn't want to just waffle. So I wrote it out and made sure that I got every word across. I hope you all liked this video, and please try to understand the message behind what I'm trying to say rather than scrutinizing every little word or being stuck in the words. Look at the intentions behind it. Thank you. Please feel free to like, comment, share this video, get this video heard, especially to those that are staying silent right now. Thank you for watching. Stay safe.